Recessions. The economy is like a wild party. Everyone has a job, money to spend freely, stocks are soaring, and everyone thinks they're a financial genius. But then suddenly, the music stops, the lights come on, and a guy named Recession walks in and throws a bucket of cold water in our faces. The party's over, and now it's time to face the harsh reality. Recessions operate in an extremely insidious but dangerous domino effect. Imagine people starting to worry about the future. You decide, okay, from now on, I won't buy that $7 Starbucks coffee every morning anymore. I'll save money. That seems like a smart move, right? But because you and millions of others are abstaining from coffee, coffee shops have no revenue. They have to lay off baristas. Baristas lose their jobs and can't pay rent. Landlords don't get paid and cancel their trips. Travel companies lose customers and fire you. Congratulations, by saving $7 on coffee, you've indirectly caused yourself to be fired. That's how the recession cycle suffocates the economy. There's a classic American saying to differentiate between the severity of an economic downturn. A recession is when your neighbor loses their job. A depression is when you lose your job. And the final level, a recovery, is when the politicians lose their jobs. In general, when a recession hits, your job suddenly becomes as shaky as a seesaw. The funniest thing about the looming recession in the US and UK is the redefinition game played by macroeconomic policymakers. Economic charts plummet, people line up for unemployment benefits, but on TV, experts still say, oh no, this isn't a recession, this is just a healthy technical adjustment, or strategic slow growth. It's like your ship is sinking, water up to your neck, but the captain still announces over the loudspeaker, we're not sinking, we're just exploring the ocean up close. The good news is, recessions don't last forever. On average, they only last 10 to 18 months. It's like a forced reset button to erase those crazy financial bubbles that preceded them. The best way to survive a recession? Prepare an emergency fund, upgrade your skills, and switch to instant noodles if necessary. Credit score. In America, there's an invisible number that holds the key to your entire life's destiny. It's not your IQ, your bank balance, or your Instagram followers. It's a number between 300 and 850. They call it credit score. If your score is 850, you're a god. Banks will roll out the red carpet for you to borrow money. If your score is 500, congratulations. Society will treat you like a criminal who just escaped from jail. A credit score is essentially a scorecard that assesses whether you are a trustworthy adult based on how you borrow and repay debt. This system operates on an extremely illogical logic that no young person can understand. You think, oh, I'm a good citizen, I never borrow money, never use credit cards, I only spend what I earn. You proudly go to the bank to buy a house. The bank looks at you like you're some kind of strange creature. We don't see your debt history. You don't have a credit score. Since you don't owe anyone, we don't know if you'll default on your loans. Therefore, we refuse your loan. That's right. To prove you're trustworthy, you must borrow money from them and then repay it dutifully. The rules of this scorecard are also quite sensitive. You have to pay your bills on time for 5 years, day by day, to climb from 600 to 700 points. But what if you forget to pay your gym membership for 1 month? Boom! Your score drops 100 points overnight. It's like being a good husband for 10 years but forgetting your wedding anniversary just once, and you're sleeping on the sofa immediately. What's the craziest thing? You're not allowed to be overly curious about your own score. In the US-UK system, there are two concepts, soft inquiry and hard inquiry. Checking it yourself on the app is fine. But if you're applying for car loans or house loans in multiple places, and banks are constantly checking your score. In short, credit score is like a game where you can't just press quit. The only way to survive is to get a credit card early, buy small things like groceries or gas, and set up autopay so you never get caught by the system. Currency? Look at this $100 bill. High-quality paper, sharp printing, featuring the powerful, smiling face of Benjamin Franklin. You could use it to buy a pair of AirPods. But if you went back 5,000 years and gave this paper to a prehistoric man in exchange for food, he would use it to wipe his feet or start a fire. Why can a piece of paper that can't be eaten or worn control the world today? Welcome to the illusory world of currency. To put it bluntly, modern currency has no intrinsic value. It has value only because we all agree that it has value. In the old days, before money existed, humans used a barter system. You had a cow, I had apples, and we exchanged them. But this system was too inconvenient. If I only wanted to exchange 3 apples, I couldn't cut off a cow's hoof to give to you. That's how humans invented money. Initially, we used rare items like seashells, then upgraded to gold and silver. Gold was great because it was rare and shiny. But carrying a sack of gold while shopping was both heavy and risky for robbery. So the bank said, just deposit your gold with us, and we'll give you a receipt. Just use that receipt to buy things. And that's how paper money was born. In 1971, U.S. President Richard Nixon made a historic move. He declared that the U.S. dollar would no longer be backed by gold. The so-called gold standard officially ceased to exist. From that moment on, currency transformed into fiat money. In other words, the current value of the U.S. dollar or the British pound is not pegged to gold, but rather to the credibility of the government. Because each country prints its own type of paper, we have the Forex market, where currencies compete to see which is more powerful. And this is a favorite joke of American tourists when they visit England. Today, currency doesn't even exist in paper form anymore. It's just digital numbers dancing on your phone screen or volatile cryptocurrencies. But whatever form it takes, remember, money is just a tool, not the ultimate goal. Investing. Scrolling through TikTok or Twitter these days, you'll see tons of 19-year-old financial experts sitting in rented supercars telling you, invest in this dog-shaped coin, you'll become a millionaire overnight. You listen, pour all your savings in, and boom, that money vanishes overnight. Welcome to the world of investing. Many people think investing is a breathtaking game of chance. But in reality, genuine investing is much more tedious than you think. Its essence is making your money work tirelessly to support you instead of you working tirelessly for money. Imagine a real-life example. Your friend Sarah wants to open a coffee shop. She makes incredibly delicious coffee but lacks capital. You give Sarah $500 to buy a coffee machine. In return, Sarah promises, for every cup I sell each month, I'll give you 10% of the profit. A year later, the coffee shop is thriving. You don't have to stand behind the counter, mop the floors, or endure complaining customers. You just lie at home and collect your share of the profits. Congratulations, you've just made a great investment. You've used your money to acquire a piece of someone else's business. In the US-UK financial world, you'll hear these 3 basic concepts most often. First, stocks. You buy Apple stock, meaning you own a tiny fraction of the company. If iPhones sell well, you get rich. If one day Apple releases an iPhone without a screen and goes bankrupt, you lose everything. Second, bonds. This is when you lend money to the government or a large corporation. They give you a promissory note with a promise of low interest rates. It's extremely safe, but so safe that its returns sometimes don't even keep up with inflation. Suitable for elderly people living in retirement homes. And third, the ultimate weapon of the lazy index funds. Instead of racking your brains trying to decide whether to buy Apple or Google stock, you buy a basket containing them all, like the S&P 500. If 5 companies fail, the remaining 495 companies will still support you. This is the investment method that billionaires like Warren Buffett recommend for the average person. Sounds easy, right? But the biggest enemy of investing isn't the market, but your own unstable mindset. The classic scenario for a novice investor is seeing Tesla stock skyrocket. Wow, everyone's getting rich, I have to buy now. The next day, Elon Musk posts a nonsensical tweet. The stock drops 5%. You panic. Oh no, I'm going to be homeless. You sell off your shares. You just lost money. And the next day, the market skyrockets again. You realize you just gave away your hard-earned money to the Wall Street sharks because of a moment of weakness. In short, investing isn't about getting rich overnight, but rather a long-term marathon lasting 10 or 20 years. The winner isn't the one who jumps the fastest, but the one who patiently sits back and watches their financial snowball roll and grow on its own. Value. Legendary Warren Buffett once said something that resonates deeply. Price is what you pay. Value is what you get. To understand why these two things are different, imagine an example. You're in New York, and a bottle of mineral water costs $1. You drink it because you're thirsty. Its value to you is also only around $1. Now, imagine you're in the middle of the Sahara Desert, 40 degrees Celsius, having gone without water for 2 days. A camel driver appears and says, "This bottle of water costs $1,000. Would you like to buy it?" Would you buy it? Absolutely. You'll even cry tears of gratitude to that guy. Why would you still buy the same bottle of water if the price increased 1,000 times? Because in that situation, its life-saving value is far greater than the $1,000. The price is fixed on the label, but the value is entirely based on its usefulness to you. In the financial market, there's a school of thought called value investing. This is how savvy billionaires get rich. Imagine you're at the market. The crowds are going crazy over the hottest hype items, driving their prices sky high. Meanwhile, you discover a fantastic, profitable company, but for some silly reason, like the CEO making a careless remark on Twitter, its stock price plummets. You know the company's true value is $100, but the market is selling it off for $20. You jump in and buy it all. It's like buying a brand new designer leather jacket at a thrift store for the price of a bowl of instant noodles. You just sit back and wait for the crowd to realize the truth, the stock price to rise back to its true value, and you become rich. However, young people today often confuse value with cheap. Consider how you go to the supermarket to buy toilet paper. You see a roll of super cheap, single-ply paper for $1 and a roll of super soft, 3-ply paper for $5. You choose the $1 roll because you think you're a financial savvy person. What's the result? You have to use 5 times the amount of paper, the experience is as painful as using sandpaper to wipe your backside, and the roll is gone in 2 days. You thought you got a bargain, but in reality, you received something worthless. Never save money by buying junk that degrades your quality of life. In short, a smart financial manager isn't someone who doesn't spend money, but someone who knows how to spend it on things that provide long-term value. Whether it's a good book, a good mattress for your back, or stock in a reputable company. What's the most expensive inanimate item you've ever bought because of hype? Confess in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. These buttons are completely free, but the knowledge you gain is priceless. See you soon.